friends. I am so glad you're back with us for another day of Vacation Bible School. I'm so glad you're here again. All right, can anyone remember who we're learning about this week? Anybody remember? Did you say Joseph? If you did, that's right, Joseph. Our stories this week come from God's true word, the Bible. And all the stories about Joseph come from the first book of the Bible called Genesis. Yesterday, we learned that Joseph, do you remember Joseph? He had a special coat. His brothers were jealous of him, so they took his coat off and they sold him into slavery. And they tricked his father into thinking that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. Remember, I said we were going to talk about some more of Joseph's story. God was with him and God was taking care of him this whole time. After his brothers sold him, he was taken to Egypt and he became a slave for a man named Potiphar. Potiphar put Joseph in charge of everything that he had. He was really important to Potiphar. Potiphar's wife wanted Joseph to do something wrong, but Joseph would not sin against God. Potiphar's wife lied about Joseph, and Potiphar put Joseph in prison. That was really sad because Joseph was trying to do the right thing, but Potiphar put him in prison because his wife lied about Joseph. And do you know what? God blessed Joseph, and he was with him the entire time, even when he was in prison. And Joseph was put in charge of all of the prisoners. Even in prison, God was still with him. Potiphar's cupbearer and baker were in prison with Joseph, but Potiphar gave the cupbearer his job back, and he was released from prison. 2 years later, Potiphar had 2 dreams, and no one could tell him what they meant. The cupbearer remembered Joseph interpreted his dream while he was in prison. And yesterday we talked about Joseph's dreams, but today we're talking about Potiphar's dreams. So the cupbearer remembered Joseph, interpreted his dreams in prison. So Joseph was brought before Potiphar, and with God's help, Joseph was able to tell Potiphar what his dreams meant. And here are the dreams that Potiphar had. In the first dream, Potiphar saw 7 fat cows eating by the river. Can we count them? 1, 2, oops, those are the skinny ones. Fat cows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fat cows. He saw 7 fat cows eating by the river. 7 skinny cows came. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And do you know what those skinny cows did? Those skinny cows went over and ate up the fat cows. And they were still skinny. Weird dream, huh? Potiphar didn't know what it meant. So the 7 skinny cows ate up the 7 fat cows. In the second dream, there were 7 skinny heads of grain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 skinny heads of grain. And then there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full heads of grain. And do you know what happened in this dream? The 7 skinny heads of grain swallowed up the 7 full heads of grain. Potiphar didn't know what it meant, but Joseph was able to tell him with God's help. Joseph told Potiphar that his dreams meant that there were going to be 7 years where there would be food to grow in their land, and then 7 lean years where there would be no food. Joseph was put in charge of storing all the food up during those 7 good years. Next to the king, Joseph was the most important ruler in Egypt because God was with him and God was helping him. All right, before I go, I'm going to read our book that we read yesterday, and we'll read a little more today, and then we'll finish it tomorrow. Joseph Forgives His Brothers is what this book is called. A man named Jacob had 12 sons in Israel long ago. He loved the one named Joseph most and often told him so. He made a richly woven robe that Joseph proudly wore. His brothers didn't like the robe or that Jacob loved him more. Then Joseph shared some dreams in which his family bowed before him. The brothers thought he'd gone too far for them to just ignore him. "I hate this boy," one brother said. "He really makes me mad." "If Joseph disappeared," he said, "I know that I'd be glad." When Jacob sent him out where sheep were herded by his brothers, one said, "Let's kill this dreamer now." But the oldest stopped the others. "Don't kill him, please," his brother said. "Let's sell the boy instead. We'll take his robe, smear it with blood, and tell father that he's dead." So they sold Joseph to some men who came along that way, and these men took him as a slave to Egypt that same day. Poor Jacob thought his son was dead. His brothers soon forgot him, but God kept Joseph safe with Potiphar, the man who bought him. With God's help, Joseph did so well each job his master gave that Potiphar soon liked him more than any other slave. Then Joseph was accused of sin, and soldiers quickly jailed him. His master's wife had lied, but even then, God never failed him. In prison, Joseph helped explain the dreams of men around him, and when the ruler had a dream, he searched him out and found him. The ruler Pharaoh shared his dreams of cows and stalks of grain, and Joseph said, "This means the land will have a lack of rain. But first, the cows and crops will thrive, and we can store up food. We'll have enough to eat and more to sell when things aren't good." The Pharaoh was so pleased by this, he said to all the land, "Hear this, my people. Joseph now is second in command." All right. You know what? Today we learned that my hero God will never forget about me. Your hero God will never forget about you. Just like he never forgot about Joseph, even when he was far away from his family, even when he was in prison, God had a plan for him. Our hero God never forgets about us. Thank you guys for coming today. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.